happened to Amtix, the sister magazine of Crash and Zap. Launched at the end of 1985, lasted for 18 issues up until, as you can see here, April 1987. And, well, if I can actually get this thing up to full screen, which I will do there. You may remember Amtix, you may not. It never really made a huge impact on the Amstrad market, and it was pretty much forgotten about by late 80s, early 90s, because Amstrad Action had come along and really played the long game and become the dominant Amstrad magazine. Additionally, whereas Zap and Crash could be all games magazines for the Spectrum and C64, because that's how the Spectrum and C64 markets were, the idea of an all games magazine for a computer that was more than a games computer was never really going to fly. So, yeah, I mean, this is Amtix, Newsfield publication. You can see the names there, the famous names: Roger Keane, Oliver Frey, and Franco Frey. And Richard Eddy is the software editor, and so on. And it's announcing here in issue 18, it's closing and merging with Computing with the Amstrad. And that's where we're going to be looking at Computing with the Amstrad and see what did happen to Amtix. Plenty of games reviewed there, as you can see, but we just quickly scroll through. They're selling off all their merch. Yeah, it's like Zap and Crash. I mean, oh dear me. Oh dear me. Is it like a really bad remake of Mannequin? Yeah, you can have a Amtix cap for $3.95. Nice. Oh, look, the Senator. But you can see there's no serious software in here at all. It is all about the games. Tips section with Anthony Clark there. And really, it's entirely games. Adventure section, but it's Zap or Crash for the Amstrad CPC, which, yeah, it's never really going to fly, is it? For anyone who knows the Amstrad CPC, how many pages we've got? There are 84 pages, are quite a bit there. But yeah, so that was Amtix as it was. So let's have a go look at the magazine it merged with before the merger. So it's Computing with the Amstrad, and known as one of the more serious Amstrad magazines. If I can go back up there. Amstrad Computer User was the official magazine, initially run from Amstrad HQ for the first 50 or so issues, and initially also owned by Amstrad before being sold to Afterlife, I think it was, but still run from Amstrad HQ, edited by Simon Rockman. That was a serious magazine with a amount of games coverage in it, but not a huge amount, usually shoved towards the end of the magazine until about 1988 when it moved towards the front of the magazine and increased slightly, mainly aimed at hobbyists. And Computing with the Amstrad, which was an even more serious magazine. Many more listings, many more technical things. So we can see April 87 edition is the last one without Amtix incorporated in. So, I mean, going straight into the adverts. And yeah, your first advert is from Digital Research, not Ocean or US Gold, Digital Research. And an advert from the official Amstrad User Club. And then we go in here. You can see it's got a circulation of 39,369. And you've even got in the middle of the magazine, Business Computing with the Amstrad. So there's a whole section about using your computer for business. But yeah, it's a serious magazine. It's not the one they have actually by this stage moved. No, actually, they always have had the reviews fairly towards the front of the magazine. Computing with Amstrad, it was Amstrad Computer User that had the reviews towards the end. But this is the kind of games review they were doing. And there's a review there for Xevious, for example. So they're quite. You see the kind of layout. This is how it's been for the last couple of years with Computing with the Amstrad. And they've got some Amstrad PCW stuff in there as well, actually. You got Trivial Pursuit for the PCW and Frank Bruno's Boxing for the PCW. And again, take note of some of these names of the reviewers. Steve Brook and Nev Astley versus the people from Newsfield. You see that nice graphics on the pawn there. But yeah, it is what it is, really. It's a proper hobbyist computer magazine, as many of the database magazines were. Aren't they just repeating the news thing on the front page there? Never mind. So I'm assuming, I think all this stuff gets split out into a separate PCW and PC magazine. TV tuners. Listing for a game. Lots of data statements. Always good to have your data statements with these things. Because someone's written it all in assembler, and now you are the poor so-and-so who has to type all this in BASIC. But it couldn't be further from Newsfield. They go machine code with the legendary Roland Wadilove. How many type-ins did we all type in on the Amstrad and the BBC from Roland Wadilove? And how the guy got the time to do all the stuff he did. Adventuring. It's all serious stuff. It's a serious computer magazine with a bit of games in the front. It is the least likely candidate to be married up with Amtics. But here we go. Here's what the magazine looks like. I think this is the second one after the merger. Just because of what I've got at hand. So, computing with the Amstrad CPC, so they have split out the PC and PCW, incorporating Antics. Advert from Amstrad. It's all looking very similar. The names haven't changed at the front. Nobody's come over from Amtics. No, this is the first one. Actually, this is the first one. Welcome to the first issue of Computing with the Amstrad CPC. CPU users how to share their user. CPC users how to share their magazine with users of the PCW and PC. Advert for the multi-face and new headquarters for database. What I want to see is these reviews. Gallup chart there. New look Gallup chart. Pickford Brothers feud is at number 2. Sadly, they won't be getting royalties because I think they're on staff at Binary Design, and that's your life as a staff coder. So where's all this Amtics coverage? There we go. And they've kind of copied the Amtics look, kind of, but they've put it all in colour. Slightly strange, but still the font from Amstrad, computing with the Amstrad. See there. It's very odd. And the names are Nev Astley. We saw that in the previous issue. So they've got no reviewers over from Amtics. The only link is really they've borrowed a bit of the design. The writing style is exactly the same as Computing with the Amstrad was before. That's leaderboard, 90%. More reviews. And this was actually quite good because we used to get both Amstrad Computer User and Computing with the Amstrad at this time. And it felt like Computing with the Amstrad had better reviews. And that it was as a result of these Amtics guys coming over. But of course it wasn't. It's just the same reviewers doing pretty much the same review style, but they've got a bit of colour and colour screenshots, and they've branded it Amtics. It's all quite odd, really. And how many Amtics users would have come over to Computing with the Amstrad and been happy with a magazine that, as we will see, there you go, they've managed to work in a trackable interface into the Amtics section. And we're back into standard Computing with the Amstrad. There you go, not listings, but modem feature. And that's it. The magazine carries on. There you go. There's the listing. Centipede. Absolutely free Amstrad PC 1512. It's odd. It's really odd. the birth of the game feature comes over from Amtix. They're carrying it on. So that's something that's been going on, which will be odd to any Computing with the Amstrad owners, readers, who will have been dropping into this feature halfway through. Should there be a tips section? Oh, I missed. There you go. See, the only writer who comes over, I believe, is Anthony Clark, doing AMS tips. And of course, the thing about Antics was a lot of those writers on it were working on other newsfield magazines at the time. It was like Antics was almost an afterthought, and they were just getting reviewers in from Zap and Crash and so on to do the magazine. So it always felt a bit half-baked. Again, that'll upset people, but I just feel that there's something about Amtix that never clicked, that never gelled, that never worked. And it's weird actually looking at, suddenly with the green background in here, it kind of looks better than Amtix ever did with this amount of colour here in Computing with the Amstrad. But actually, yeah, I mean, they're using colour. They've got more colour pages here. But it's still demonstrably Computing with the Amstrad. Let's skip on a few issues. Let's go to July 87 to see if anything has changed. So there you go. That's enticing for your gamer. It's a ROM special. ROM special. It's Computing with the Amstrad. Just continued. Just with Amtix on the cover. Is that ABC? No, the ABC is the same. So again, it's just Interana, nice kind of feature there. Amtix accolade. And the reviewers again. Was Victor Laszlo one? I don't think that. I think these are all database people. Anthony Clark. There you go. That's an Amtix reviewer, because it's Anthony Clark doing it. I might have seen that name, possibly. Getting confused now from how many I've seen, but it really is. And that's all because it's the middle of the year. That's a lot for reviews, and then we're into a Roland Waddy Love ROM feature. Yeah, it's just, they've just managed to get the Amtix branding. There's your feud, still at number 4. They've got the Amtix branding, and that's basically it. I mean, it's not as bad as when Crash merged with Sinclair User. It just turned into a logo on the cover. Ironically, after Crash, after their revival, their brief revival, crowed that Future had tried to buy them and turn them into a logo on the cover of your Sinclair. It's like 6 months later, you're just the logo on the worst, by this stage, Spectrum magazine, who are going to close not long after. And, you know, that's it. That's the only acknowledgement, a logo that gradually decreases in size. So let's go to the last edition of Computing with the Amstrad, June 1988. I think they merged with another magazine after this, and then it merges with Amstrad Computer User. It gets very complicated, because now it's the rise of Amstrad Action. They're getting up to the 40,000 ABCs, and it just kind of, you know, it's going all towards Amstrad Action and Amstrad Computer User. So, gamey cover there. That's not an advert I've seen for Dark Side before. It's interesting. It's not very looking like the other games, not like the other incentive adverts, is it? And the ABC is still the June 86 one. Dixon's dumped CPC until the autumn. Not really sure that's news, because quite often computers would come off the shelves over the summer because you sell most of your computers in the build-up to Christmas. Feud still in though. Feud won't. No way. We're a year down the line, aren't we? Ghostbusters on budget is at number 1. Outrun at number 8. Hang on, you put your adventure column first. Right. Okay. Oh, look, Anthony Clark has gone there. They've managed to make it cheaper by using a anonymous writer who obviously they've made a lady. with the sultry image up top called Tiffany. It's all a bit, yeah. This is a nicer scan, isn't it? Very nice. And they've lost the green background, which I kind of liked. Cybernoid, 95%. Spy vs. Spy Trilogy, all of them. I never knew they put them all out on one compilation. Spin Drone, never even, as an Atlantis game. 50%. Magnificent in its mediocrity. That sounds like a candidate for a review. Bad Cat. Games I haven't heard of. We heard Lee Enfield. Nicky and Bunty play that. Demon's Revenge. It's a slack month here, isn't it? Shanghai Karate. I think I know that one. Dervish from the Powerhouse. Aren't they what DER became? Pink Panther, yeah. Top 10 collection. That's a lame month for games. Oh, CD Walkman. Huge one. And when you're running live content in the middle of the year, what better thing to do than a joystick roundup? That's a big old ROM board there. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange merger. A strange one, and that is what happened to Amtix, which, as I say, it's not a magazine I have a huge amount of affection for because I don't think it ever really worked for Amstrad owners. I just don't think it ever had that energy, that bite that Crash and Zap did in their heyday. It was always a bit afterthought. Oh, we have to do this, and we're not going to throw all the resources at this. It never really gelled with a community that only most users would use their CPC for something other than games. You weren't going to spend £400 on a computer versus £129 for a Spectrum and just play games on it. You might have a green screen 464 and just play games in it, but the idea of a 6128, colour 6128 owner, never loading up a word processor or owning a copy of Art Studio is a little bit beyond me. I'm not saying people didn't, because I know people who did, but the majority of us were wanting a magazine like Amstrad Action that had great game coverage, but said, hey, you can do this on your Amstrad as well. And Amtix never did that. So that's a quick look at what happened to Amtix here on Chinny Vision 2. Remember to check out the main channel and link in the description below, because if you haven't worked this out now, this is the disorganised sister channel to Chinny Vision. Thanks for watching.